The sky above Earth was clear that morning. People walked through cities, worked in fields, or drove their vehicles on wide roads. Children laughed in schools, and old men sat on benches enjoying the sun. Everything felt normal until a shadow covered the clouds. Dot began with a low humming sound. Birds flew in strange patterns. Animals grew restless. Then the sound grew louder, like a deep engine or a windstorm without air. People looked up, shielding their eyes. A massive shape appeared above the sky. It wasn't a plane, and it wasn't like anything humans had seen before. The object was a ship, giant and silent. Black metal curved along its surface, glowing with blue lines. It moved slowly, but covered the entire sky over one of Earth's largest cities. Fear spread fast. Phones rang. News channels broke into broadcasts. Cameras pointed upward as millions watched the alien ship hover in the sky. Military bases across the world were put on high alert. Jets scrambled. Missiles were armed. Scientists argued over what kind of ship it was. Some said it came to invade. Others said it came to study. No one expected peace. But then the ship spoke. A voice came through every speaker, every device, every radio. It was soft but powerful. The voice was female and calm. She spoke clearly, in perfect Earth language. My name is Rena of the Rixa Empire. I am the daughter of Queen Talon. I come not for war. I come with a request. Do not fear. I wish only to speak. I bring no army. I bring my child. The world froze. Governments were confused. Soldiers waited for orders. Leaders spoke to each other across screens. Some wanted to shoot the ship down. Others said wait. She had mentioned a child. She claimed peace. Some believed. Some didn't. Then a small pod dropped from the ship. It moved slowly, landing in an open area outside the city. Drones flew around it. Armored vehicles formed a circle. Soldiers aimed weapons, but no attack came. The pod opened with a soft hiss. Out stepped a woman. She was tall and graceful. Her skin had a faint shimmer, a mix of silver and light gold. Her eyes were sharp, yet kind. Her hair fell past her shoulders, tied in soft bands. In her arms, she carried a small boy. The woman looked around at the soldiers, the tanks, the fear. She showed no fear herself. She took one step forward. My name is Rena, she said aloud. This is my son. His name is Tom. He was born on Earth. His father is human. A silence followed. The soldiers didn't shoot. The boy looked up at them, wide-eyed but calm. He held his mother's hand and didn't cry. One of the soldiers finally lowered his weapon. Others followed. A message was sent to world leaders. She's here. She means no harm. Rena was taken to a secured building, but she was not treated like a prisoner. Scientists and leaders gathered to speak with her. They asked questions. Where had she been? Why did she leave? Why come back now? She answered with honesty. 15 years ago, she had come to Earth on a mission from her mother's empire. She was young and curious, but her ship had crashed. She had been trapped, wounded, and alone. Help came not from her own people but from a human soldier. His name was Mark. He saved her life. He hid her from those who would harm her. He taught her Earth's ways, and in time, she began to love this strange world. She also began to love him. But danger never left. Her people searched for her, and Earth authorities grew suspicious. To protect them both, she vanished. No one knew she carried a child. For 15 years, she lived in secret. She raised Tom in quiet towns, moving from place to place. But now, her son's powers had started to appear. He was different. He was more than human. And soon, both Earth and Rixa would notice. I could not hide him forever, she told them. Leaders, and I will not let him grow up hunted. She had returned not to fight but to warn. Others from her empire might come. Some would see Tom as a threat. Some would want to take him. Others might want to destroy him. But she would not allow that. She would fight for her son, with peace if possible, with strength if needed. Her words reached every corner of Earth. People argued, protested, prayed, hoped. Some feared her. Others praised her. News channels showed her face. Children drew her ship in school books. The world had changed in one day. And far above, in the cold silence of space, other ships had begun to move. They were not coming in peace. 15 years ago, Earth's skies were still calm. No one had seen a ship from the stars. People lived without fear of aliens or empires. But deep in the forests of South America, something strange had happened. A fire in the sky, a crashing. The night. Mark was a young soldier at that time. He worked in a small unit that patrolled remote areas. That night, he was walking his post when the ground shook. A flash lit the sky, and a loud explosion echoed through the mountains. His radio crackled, and a voice shouted, "A known object fell from orbit. Go check it out." Mark and two other soldiers moved through the thick trees. The air smelled of smoke and burned metal. Soon, they found the crash site. A strange silver pod lay broken in the ground, half buried in earth. Steam hissed from its surface. Pieces of glowing metal were scattered around. They expected danger, maybe a secret weapon or a spy drone. But when Mark moved closer, he saw something unexpected. A figure was crawling out of the wreckage. It was not human. She looked hurt. Her skin had a soft golden tone. Her eyes were sharp and clear, but full of pain. Her arm was bleeding. She tried to stand but fell. The other soldiers raised their weapons. "Wait," Mark said, holding up his hand. "She's hurt." They didn't know what to do. The woman was clearly alien. She didn't speak their language, but Mark saw something in her eyes. She wasn't a soldier. She wasn't here to fight. She looked lost, scared, alone. The order came from the top: secure the alien, send her to base. But Mark couldn't follow that order. He had seen what happened to captured beings. He had read the reports. Scientists would treat her like a test subject. She would never be safe. Again, that night, Mark made a choice that changed everything. He helped her escape. He told his team he found nothing. When they left, he returned to the wreck. The woman was hiding nearby, weak and cold. Mark gave her his jacket. He spoke slowly, using hand signs. She watched him closely, trying to understand. Her name was Rena. She healed fast, but she couldn't go far. Mark took her to an old cabin deep in the woods. It was a place no one visited. He brought food and water. Day by day, they learned to talk. She used a small translator from her broken ship. Soon, they could speak. Rena told him about the Rixa Empire, about her mother, Queen Talon, about the mission that had gone wrong. She was not a soldier. She was a scout, sent to observe Earth quietly. But her ship had been damaged. She had crashed, and her signal was lost. She feared that her people thought she was dead. Mark listened with care. He had never met anyone like her. She was calm but strong, gentle but sharp. She asked many questions about Earth, about its people, about how humans lived and loved and made choices. As time passed, Rena healed completely, but she didn't leave. She said it was still too dangerous. Her own people might come looking. Earth's governments were watching the skies, and something else had changed, something inside her heart. Mark and Rena had become close. They laughed together. They cooked meals. They watched the stars at night. Rena had never known freedom like this. On her world, every step was planned. Every word had a purpose. Here, she felt alive. Mark, too, had changed. He had seen war and fear before. But with Rena, he found peace. He saw her not as an alien, but as a person, someone strong, someone brave, someone he trusted. One morning, Rena stood near the river by the cabin. She looked thoughtful. "I should leave," she said, "but I don't want to." "You don't have to," Mark replied. She turned to him. "If I stay, others will come. They will find me. They will find you. We'll face it," Mark said, "together." But fate had other plans. One night, Rena woke suddenly. Her skin glowed faintly, her eyes wide. "They're searching," she whispered. "I feel them. They're close." She didn't wait. She kissed Mark's hand, held his face gently, and left before the sun rose. She didn't say goodbye, only left a small message on his table. "Protect yourself. Always remember me. I will return. Mark searched for her, but she was gone. No signal, no trace, just memories. He returned to duty, but his heart was never the same. People said he seemed distant after that, quieter. He never told anyone the full truth. Some nights, he sat alone and stared at the sky, wondering if she had survived. He didn't know that she carried something more than memories. She carried their son. Years later, when the alien ship returned and the world watched in fear, Mark was sitting in a quiet town far from the cities. He saw the ship on the news. He heard the name Rena. His hands began to shake. He saw the boy in her arms. And he knew. Far away from Earth, across the stars, the great palace of Rixa stood high above the clouds, built on floating stone platforms, surrounded by endless light. It was the heart of the Rixa Empire. From this palace, Queen Talon ruled over hundreds of worlds. The queen sat on her throne of silver. Her face was calm, but her eyes burned with silent fire. She had just received a message that she never thought she would hear again. Her daughter, Rena, was alive. The room was quiet. The royal council sat before her, not speaking a word. No one knew how to break the silence. For years, Rena had been missing. Most believed she was dead, lost during her mission to a primitive world called Earth. Some said she had betrayed the Empire. Others thought she had been captured or killed. Now she had returned, not in secret, but with a public message. She stood on Earth's soil and declared her child, a child born of a human man, a child that carried royal blood mixed with something unknown. The queen finally spoke. She survived. She chose to live in hiding. And now she returns with a child. From that world, a high-ranking noble cleared his throat. My queen, we have laws. The child is half human. He cannot be considered for the line of succession. Another noble nodded. The people will question her honor. This could weaken the empire. It may cause unrest. Queen Talon stood from her throne. Her voice was quiet, but every word held weight. My daughter disobeyed, but she lives, and her child, no matter his father, carries the blood of this house. I will decide what must be done. She turned to her commander. Send the royal guard to Earth. Tell them to bring Rena and the child to me, alive. Do not harm them. If Earth's leaders interfere, remind them who we are. The commander bowed. As you command, my queen. But in the dark corners of the palace, not all agree with her decision. A man named Laren, one of the oldest council members, met with others in secret. His face was cold. His heart was proud. He believed in the purity of Erickson blood. He believed that humans were weak and dangerous. A child mixed with human blood was not the future he wanted. She brings shame to our empire, he said in a low voice. The queen hesitates, but I will not. That child must not survive. Another man asked, but if the queen protects them, then we must act before they arrive. Laren replied, we will send someone of our own, someone who does not fail. Back on Earth, Rena sat in a quiet room, watching her son sleep. Tom's eyes were closed, his small hand holding a blanket, but Rena could feel the energy inside him. She had watched him grow faster than normal children. He learned quickly. He could see things others couldn't. She had hoped his powers would stay hidden longer. But the changes had already begun. She heard a knock on the door. A soldier stepped in. He wore no weapon. He looked calm, respectful. Mom, someone is here to see you. Rena nodded. Let him in. Mark stepped into the room. For a moment, both of them just stood still. Years had passed, but their memories were fresh. He looked older now. His hair had a few gray lines. His shoulders were broader, but his eyes were the same, gentle, steady, kind. Rena smiled. You found me. Mark nodded slowly. I saw the news. I saw you. And him? He looked at the boy sleeping on the bed. I didn't know. He said quietly, I left to protect you. She replied, they were looking for me. I didn't want them to find you. Mark sat down beside her. He's ours. Rena nodded. His name is Tom. He's strong, kind, and curious like you. He asks questions about everything. Mark smiled. Just like you. They sat in silence for a while, both looking at the child they had created. The world outside still moved fast. People debated. Governments planned. But in that small room, it was just a mother, a father, and their child. Later that evening, Rena met with Earth's leaders. She told them about the Rixa Empire, the Queen, and what would come next. She warned them that other ships would arrive soon. Some would follow peace, others would not. They may try to take him, she said. They may try to harm him. But I will not let that happen. A general asked, why now? Why return after all these years? Rena looked out the window at the stars. Because my son deserves a future. Not in hiding, not in fear. He must know who he is, and the world must. Learn that peace is still possible. High above Earth, in the deep night sky, stars shifted. One of them was not a star at all. It was a ship, smaller than Rena's, but fast and sharp. Inside sat a figure dressed in black armor. His mission was simple: find the child and end the bloodline. He didn't care about peace. He only cared about obedience. Tom sat near the window, looking up at the stars. He held a small book in his hand, filled with drawings he had made himself. There were spaceships, animals, and people with strange eyes. His mother told him stories every night. She told him about Rixa, the world of light and floating cities. She told him about Earth, the world that gave him a father. But now, the stories were becoming real. Tom was not like other children. He had always known it when he ran. He was faster than the others. When he read, he remembered every word. When he touched machines, they sometimes moved on their own. Once, without knowing how, he fixed a broken drone by just holding it. He asked his mother, why am I different? Rena sat beside him. She brushed his hair gently and said, because you are strong, Tom. You come from two great worlds. You are human, and you are Erickson. That makes you special. Tom looked down. Does that mean I don't belong? Rena shook her head. It means you belong in both places. And someday, you may help both understand each other. Mark stood nearby, listening. He had returned only 2 days ago, but it already felt like he had never left. Tom was shy at first, but warm and curious. Mark had given him a small wooden box filled with Earth toys. Tom had smiled and asked 100 questions. Now the three of them were together again. A family, though the world outside was full of noise and danger. Earth's leaders still watched Rena with care. They had placed guards around the base. Scientists asked questions every day. People on the news argued about whether Rena and Tom were a threat or a miracle. Some welcomed them, others feared them. Rena tried to stay calm, but her thoughts were heavy. She knew something was coming. Back in the sky, far above Earth, the assassin ship moved closer. His name was Kale. He wore black armor and had trained his whole life to serve the Empire. He believed in order. He believed in purity. And he believed that the child must not live. Kale landed far from the main cities. His ship blended with the rocks. He moved without sound, using old paths through the mountains. He scanned for energy signals. He found them to strong ones. One was Rena. The other was the boy. Kale smiled coldly. I have found the target. Back at the base, Tom stood near a metal wall. He placed his hand on it. The wall lit up with soft blue light. Mark saw it and asked, how did you do that? Tom looked confused. I don't know. It just happens when I think. Rena walked over and said, it is beginning. His mind is opening. Mark asked, is it dangerous? No, Rena said, but it will draw attention. That evening, Rena took Tom outside under the stars. She showed him how to listen to the wind. She placed his hand on the ground and said, feel the world. Let it speak to you. Tom closed his eyes. For a moment, he felt nothing. Then, he felt warmth, a light moving through the soil, a sound like a whisper. He opened his eyes and said, I feel something alive. You are hearing the planet, Rena said. This is part of your gift. Inside the base, alarms started flashing. Soldiers ran to their stations. A guard shouted, a known movement near the perimeter. Mark grabbed his weapon and ran toward Rena and Tom. Go inside, he said. Stay low. But it was too late. Kale moved like a shadow. He jumped over the wall, landing in front of them. His eyes were hidden behind a dark mask. He raised his hand, and a wave of force knocked the soldiers backward. Rena stood in front of Tom. Her body glowed with golden light. "You were sent by the council," she said. Kale replied, "The child is a mistake. I will end this now." He rushed forward. Mark fired his weapon, but Kale deflected the shots with a shield of energy. Rena raised her hand, and a blast of light threw Kale across the yard. But he got back up. He moved fast, too fast. He reached Rena and pushed her to the ground. Tom screamed. A sound like wind and thunder broke from his voice. Light poured from his hands. Kale was thrown back once again, crashing into the wall. Everyone froze. Tom stood still, his eyes glowing faintly. His hands were warm, shaking with power. Rena got up slowly, holding her arm. "Tom," she said softly, "breathe. Calm your heart." Tom closed his eyes and took a deep breath. The glow faded. Kale stood. His armor cracked. He looked at the boy, surprised. "He is stronger than expected." He turned to Rena. "This is not over." Then he vanished in a beam of light. Silence returned. Rena held Tom close. Mark stood beside them, watching the sky. "They know now," Rena said. "They won't stop." Mark nodded. "Then we protect him, together." Later that night, the leaders held a meeting. Rena told them everything. About Kale, about the councils, fear, about the danger growing in space. "We cannot hide anymore," she said. "We must prepare." One of the generals asked, "What is your plan?" Rena looked at her son. "We teach him. We guide him. We show him love and strength, because someday he may be the one to bring peace." The general nodded. "Then we stand with you." The stars above seemed brighter that night. Somewhere far away, Queen Talon looked out from her palace window. She had felt the attack through the link she shared with her daughter. She whispered to herself, "The child lives, and he is powerful." Her next step would decide the future of two worlds. The next morning, the Earth base was quiet but tense. Soldiers moved in silence. Scientists checked their instruments again and again. Leaders met behind closed doors. The attack last night had changed everything. A powerful enemy had reached Earth, and a child had stopped him. Tom sat in a small room with his parents. He held a warm drink in his hands. His fingers were still shaking. The light he had used the night before had come without warning. It had scared him. It had also saved them. Mark placed a hand on Tom's shoulder. "You did well. You protected your mother." Tom looked down. "I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't even think." Rena sat beside him. Her arm was wrapped in a healing band. She gave him a soft smile. "You followed your heart. That is where true power begins." Outside the room, a loud sound filled the air. A large ship was landing near the base. It was not one of Earth's. Its wings shone like glass, and its engines made no smoke. The ship opened slowly, and tall figures stepped out. They wore long silver coats and held no weapons. The leader of the group was Queen Talon. The queen of the Rixa Empire had arrived on Earth. She walked through the halls like she owned the place. Her hair was tied back in silver bands. Her eyes were cold, clear, and full of command. Her guards moved like shadows behind her. Earth's leaders stood to welcome her. The queen nodded politely. "I have come to see my daughter." And the boy, Mark, didn't trust her. He had never met her, but he had heard the stories. A ruler of 100 worlds. A woman who could give peace or start war with one word. Still, Rena told him to stay calm. She believed her mother would listen. In a large hall, Queen Talon finally saw Rena after 15 years. For a moment, her face softened. Then her eyes moved to Tom. "So, this is the child," she said. Tom stepped behind his mother. "He is not just a child," Rena said. "He is your grandson." The queen stayed silent. She studied Tom closely. "He is strong. I felt it from orbit." "Yes," Rena said. "He has both our worlds inside him." Queen Talon looked at Mark. "And you are the father." Mark nodded. "Yes, and I will protect him with my life." The queen turned to her daughter again. "You disobeyed me. You broke our laws. You stayed on a world without permission. You bore a child with a human. Rena did not flinch. I followed my heart. I did what was right. The queen looked around the hall. Earth leaders watched from a distance. Soldiers stood ready. Everyone waited for her answer. Finally, the queen said, "Come with me. You and the child. Return to Rixa. Let us test his power. Let us see if he can be part of the future." Rena stood tall. "Only if Earth agrees. Only if Tom chooses." The queen raised an eyebrow. "He is a child. He is your grandson." Rena said, "And he must not be used as a weapon or a tool." Tom stepped forward. "I want to learn. But I also want to stay with my parents. I don't want to leave Earth forever." Queen Talon looked at him for a long time. Then she turned to her guards and gave a signal. They stepped back. The queen spoke again. "Then I offer a choice. Let him visit Rixa. Let him see our world. If he returns, he may carry both banners Earth and Rixa. If not, I will not force him." Mark looked at Rena. She nodded slowly. "We accept. Over." The next few days, preparations began. A special ship was made ready. Tom would travel with Rena, but not alone. Mark was allowed to come as well, as a guest and protector. Earth sent the leaders to observe the trip. Tom was nervous, but also excited. "I've never been to space before," he said. Rena smiled. "It's beautiful. You'll see stars that look like rivers. You walk in cities that float in the sky." Mark stood beside them. "And I'll be right there with you." Before they left, Tom stood in front of a large screen. Reporters from across Earth were watching. He was asked one question. "How do you feel about going to meet the Empire?" Tom answered simply, "I just want to learn who I am, and maybe help others like me one day." The ship rose gently into the air. The crowd below waved as it vanished into the clouds. High above, in the cold of space, Queen Talon returned to her throne room. She watched the stars with quiet thought. Her mind was full of questions. Could the child unite to very different worlds, or would he be the cause of a future conflict? She didn't know yet, but something inside her had changed. For the first time in years, the queen felt unsure. The great ship slowly descended toward the shining surface of Rixa. Below, the floating cities sparkled like jewels in the sunlight. People looked up as the ship approached. News had spread across the empire that the queen's lost daughter was returning, carrying a human child who might change their world forever. Tom stood at the window, his heart pounding. He could see the vast city, with towers of glass and light, and floating gardens that moved gently in the air. He was nervous, but ready. This was his home as much as Earth was. Rena held his hand tightly. "You are stronger than you know," she said softly. "Remember who you are." Mark stood behind them, steady and calm. He had protected them through dangers and now prepared to face a new challenge. The ship landed smoothly on a large platform outside the palace. Royal guards awaited. They bowed as the queen herself came forward to greet them. Queen Talon's face was calm but proud. She stepped down from her throne to meet her daughter and grandson. Rena and Tom bowed deeply. The queen took Tom's small hand in hers. Her eyes searched his face. "You carry our blood," she said quietly. "In the strength of two worlds." Tom looked up at her. "I want to help both." The queen nodded. "That is why you are here, to learn, to grow, and to choose your path inside the palace." Tom was introduced to the wonders of Rixa. He saw floating libraries filled with glowing books. He walked through gardens where plants sang softly in the breeze. He met scholars and warriors, all curious about the boy who carried human. In Erickson blood. Days passed. Tom studied hard. He learned the history of the Empire and the ways of the stars. He trained with warriors to control his powers. He grew taller, stronger, and more confident, but not all welcomed him. Some nobles whispered in dark halls. They called him an outsider, a mistake. They feared what he represented, a bridge between two very different worlds. Queen Talon watched. Quietly, she knew the road ahead would be hard. But she also knew that change was coming. One evening, Rena stood with her mother on a balcony overlooking the city. "Do you regret letting me come?" Rena asked. The queen looked out at the stars. No, you have shown me courage, and Tom has shown me hope. Suddenly, the palace alarm sounded. Soldiers rushed past. The Queen's guard tightened around the family. A messenger arrived, breathless, and attack. From a rebel faction. They did not want the child to live. The Queen's face hardened. We will protect him. No one will threaten the future of the Empire. The rebels came in the night. They struck fast, aiming for the throne room. But the Queen's forces were ready. The battle was fierce but brief. Tom fought beside the warriors. His powers flared with light and strength. He protected his mother and father. He showed the Empire that he was not just a child but a leader. When the battle ended, the Queen stood among her people. This empire will grow stronger, she said. With new blood, new ideas, and new hope, she turned to Tom. You are a new star in our sky. Tom smiled. He looked at his family and the crowd. I will carry both worlds inside me, he said, and I will help them walk together. The people cheered. From that day, the Orcs Empire and Earth began a new chapter. They built ships together. They shared knowledge. They learned to trust. And in the heart of the Empire, a boy who was part human and part Erickson stood tall, ready to lead two worlds toward a brighter future. The stars outside the ship shone like tiny diamonds. Tom stood near the window, eyes wide with wonder. Below him, Earth grew smaller. Ahead, the stars of the Rixa Empire waited. It was his first journey through space. Beside him stood Rena, calm but watchful. Mark sat not far, fastening his seatbelt. He had seen war and strange places before, but space was still new to him. This was not just a trip to another world. This was something greater. Their son was going to meet the Empire that once tried to forget he existed. The ship moved smoothly through space. No sound, no shaking, just the hum of energy and the soft lights along the walls. A few Earth diplomats sat quietly in another room. Two Erickson guards kept watch, their faces hidden under silver helmets. Rena felt uneasy. Something about the guards felt wrong. On the surface, everything seemed peaceful. But far from the ship, deep inside the Rixa Empire, trouble was growing. Laren, the old council member, stood in a dark hall. His eyes watched a large map of the stars. He was not happy. He had just received word that Queen Talon had allowed the child to visit. He had hoped the Queen would end the bloodline. Instead, she opened her arms. She has grown soft, Laren said. Her love blinds her. Another man stepped forward. His name was Varek, a former general. Removed from service for his harsh ways, he still had followers. People who believed the Empire should stay pure. People who saw the child as a threat. We can act now, Varek said. They are in space, away from Earth, away from the palace. Laren nodded slowly. Then we strike, quietly, quickly, before the boy reaches Rixa. On the ship, Tom sat with his parents in the dining room. He was full of questions. Will the people like me? Rena smiled gently. Some will, some won't. But they will see you. They will learn. Tom looked at Mark. Are you scared? Mark chuckled. I'm a little nervous, but I trust your mother, and I trust you. Suddenly, the ship's lights flickered. A small alarm beeped. The pilot's voice came through the speaker. We have a small energy spike. Checking systems now. Rena stood quickly. Stay here, she told Tom. She moved toward the control room. One of the guards followed her. The other stayed near the dining area. His hand slowly moved to his belt. Mark noticed. He stood, placing himself between the guard and Tom. What's the problem? Mark asked. No problem, the guard said. Just a routine check. But Mark's instinct told him something was wrong. In the control room, Rena looked at the ship's data. Her eyes narrowed. This signal is not natural, she said. It's coming from inside the ship. Before the pilot could respond, the guard behind Rena pulled out a small device. It lit up, sending a shock through the controls. The pilot fell unconscious. Rena turned fast and blocked them. Second strike. A short fight followed. Rena kicked the guard back, then locked the door. The ship shook. In the dining room, the second guard raised a strange weapon. Tom gasped. Mark moved fast. He grabbed a chair and threw it at the guard, knocking him off balance. Tom ducked behind a table. The guard aimed again. Then the wall burst open. Rena had forced her way back through. She threw the attacker across the room with a blast of light. Mark pulled Tom close. They tried to take control, Rena said. It's a trap. The ship shook again. The fake guards had planted something, a device pulling the ship off course. We're heading toward a moon, Rena warned. They want to crash us, Mark stood. Can we stop it? We have to, Rena said. Together. She ran back to the controls. The ship was still flying, but it was being dragged by false gravity signals. Tom followed her. Let me help, he said. Rena looked at him. Tom, this is dangerous. I can feel the ship, like I feel the trees back on Earth. Maybe I can change its path. Rena hesitated, then nodded. Okay, focus. Don't force it. Just guide it. Tom placed his hands on the panel. His eyes glowed faintly. The lights flickered. The ship's systems blinked, then reset. Slowly, the wrong signals began to fade. Mark held the pilot steady while Rena worked the controls. Sweat ran down her face. The ship finally began to slow. Outside the window, a large rocky moon passed by. Just a few miles away, the crash was avoided. The threat was gone. For now. Later, the ship floated safely through space. The attackers had been tied up and locked. In a small room, they would be judged by the Queen herself. Mark looked at Tom with pride. You saved us. Rena hugged her son. You were brave. You listened. I'm proud of you. Tom smiled. I just wanted to help. On Rixa, Queen Talon stood before her council. She had heard the news. Her face was calm, but her voice was sharp. There was betrayal, she said. Inside this very council, Laren stood quietly, hiding his thoughts, but the Queen's gaze rested on him longer than the others. My daughter and grandson will arrive soon, she said. I will see who still serves the Empire and who serves only fear. As the ship moved closer to Rixa, its lights glowing like a star, Tom stood once more at the window. The planet below was beautiful, filled with shining cities and soft clouds. He turned to his parents and said, I'm ready.